Imagine walking out to your porch or back patio and reaching out to pluck a sun-warmed, heavy fruit that tastes better than anything you've ever bought at a grocery store. Now, imagine doing that year after year, without ever having to dig a deep trench, fight with a heavy tiller, or even own a single acre of land. Most people think starting an orchard is a massive, multi-year project meant for young people with strong backs and vast fields. But that is a modern myth that keeps us dependent on fragile supply chains. The truth is, there are specific, ancient varieties of fruit trees that have been dwarfed by nature or careful selection to thrive in small pots, producing abundance in spaces no bigger than a hula hoop. These are the ultimate survival crops for the modern age, plants that work harder than you do. Before we dive into these 7 incredible trees, I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? And what is the one fruit you've always dreamed of growing but thought you didn't have the space for? Whether you're in a high-rise apartment or a suburban home with a tiny concrete yard, today is the day we change your perspective on food security. By the end of this video, you're going to have a blueprint for a micro-orchard that requires almost zero bending or lifting. I'll show you which trees can survive a freeze, which ones are practically impossible to kill, and I'll even reveal one forgotten fruit that was once a staple of royal gardens, but is now the perfect lazy crop for a senior-friendly garden. Stick around, because the last tree on our list is one that stores its own sugar so well, it's basically a living pantry. We live in an era where the grocery store feels increasingly like a gamble. Prices go up, quality goes down, and the fresh fruit we buy has often traveled thousands of miles, losing its nutrition and flavor along the way. For those of us who are getting a bit older, or perhaps just wiser with our time, the idea of a traditional garden can be exhausting. I remember my grandfather spent his weekends fighting a losing battle with a massive apple tree that was simply too big to prune and too tall to harvest safely. By the time the fruit was ripe, most of it hit the ground and rotted because he couldn't reach it. That's not food security, that's a chore. The micro-orchard philosophy is different. It's about working with your biology, not against it. It's about taking the ancient wisdom of the orangeries of the 17th century, where kings grew tropical fruits in portable containers, and applying it to our modern need for self-sufficiency. This isn't just about hobby gardening, it's about insurance. When you grow fruit in pots, you own the environment. If a freak frost comes, you don't lose your harvest. You simply wheel the pot into the garage. If you move houses, your orchard comes with you. You are essentially building a portable food forest. In a moment, I am going to show you a tree that actually thrives on neglect and can produce fruit in its very first year, even if you've killed every houseplant you've ever owned. We are moving away from the fragile, just-in-time food system and moving toward a resilient, right-at-home system. You don't need a tractor. You just need a few good pots and the right 7 trees. One of these trees in particular has a secret. It's a plant that was used during wartime to prevent scurvy when nothing else would grow, and yet today, it's one of the easiest, lazy plants for a small balcony. The first tree in our micro-orchard is perhaps the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it plant for anyone who values their time and their health, the improved Meyer lemon. Now, don't confuse this with the thick-skinned, sour lemons you find at the supermarket. The Meyer lemon is actually a cross between a traditional lemon and a mandarin orange, brought over from China in the early 1900s. It's thinner-skinned, incredibly juicy, and has a floral sweetness that makes it edible almost right off the branch. For a senior-friendly garden, this is a masterpiece of efficiency. Because it's naturally shrub-like, it doesn't try to grow 30 feet into the sky. You can keep it at a comfortable waist height, meaning no ladders, no reaching, and no strained shoulders. To get started, you don't need a massive plot of land. A 15-gallon pot with good drainage is plenty. Use a high-quality citrus potting mix, something that breathes well, and place it in the sunniest spot you have. The lazy secret here is that Meyer lemons are prolific producers. Even a young tree in a pot can give you dozens of fruits a year. In terms of survival, lemons are a powerhouse of vitamin C and citric acid, which can be used for everything from preserving other foods to cleaning. During the long winter months when fresh produce is scarce, having a living source of vitamin C on your sun porch is more than just a luxury. It's a biological safety net. Just remember, while they are tough, they don't like wet feet. If you can remember to poke your finger in the soil and only water when it feels dry, this tree will reward you for decades. Next, we have a tree that feels like a gift from the ancient world, the dwarf fig. Specifically, look for the Little Miss Figgy or celestial varieties. Figs are one of the oldest cultivated crops in human history, mentioned in some of our earliest written records for a very good reason. They are incredibly resilient. In the ground, a fig tree can become an invasive giant that tears up foundations with its roots. But in a pot, the fig becomes a disciplined, high-yielding companion. In fact, figs actually like having their roots slightly constricted. It signals to the plant that it should stop growing leaves and start producing fruit. This is a dream for the lazy gardener because the plant effectively prunes its own root system for you. For those concerned with food security, the fig is a heavy hitter. It is calorie-dense and packed with fiber, calcium, and potassium. In many Mediterranean cultures, dried figs were the famine food that kept families alive through harsh winters because they store so well. When you grow these in pots, you can keep them on a patio or even a balcony. They are remarkably drought-tolerant once established, so if you forget to water for a few days, the tree won't give up on you. One thing to keep in mind: figs produce a milky white sap when a leaf is plucked, which can be a skin irritant for some people. It's always a good idea to wear gloves if you're doing heavy pruning. But honestly, with a dwarf variety, pruning is something you'll rarely need to do. Stick with me, because next, we're going to talk about a forbidden fruit that was once nearly wiped out in North America, but is now making a massive comeback for small space growers. The forbidden fruit I mentioned is the dwarf blackcurrant. Now, there is a fascinating bit of forgotten history here. For decades, growing currants was actually illegal in many parts of the United States. In the early 20th century, the federal government banned them because they were thought to spread a fungus that threatened the timber industry. Because of that ban, an entire generation grew up without ever tasting this incredible berry, and the wisdom of how to grow them was nearly lost. But the ban was lifted years ago, and for the small space survivalist, this is one of the most important plants you can own. It is a nutritional powerhouse, containing 4 times the vitamin C of oranges and double the antioxidants of blueberries. For the lazy gardener, currants are a dream. They naturally grow as compact shrubs, and they actually prefer a bit of afternoon shade, which is perfect if your balcony or patio isn't in blazing, direct sun all day. They don't require the acidic soil that blueberries demand, which saves you the headache of constant soil testing and amending. Just put them in a pot with standard potting soil and keep the dirt moist. They are cold hardy, meaning they can survive a deep freeze that would kill a lemon tree instantly. In a survival situation, the leaves of the blackcurrant can even be dried for a medicinal tea that has been used for centuries to treat sore throats. It's a plant that offers food, medicine, and history, all in a container you can move with one hand. Moving on to our fourth, lazy, essential, the dwarf pomegranate. If you look at ancient tapestries or religious texts, the pomegranate is everywhere. It was a symbol of fertility and abundance for a reason. It is a tough-as-nails survivor. The variety, Nana, is a true genetic dwarf that stays under 3 feet tall, making it perfect for a tabletop or a small porch corner. While many fruit trees are finicky about humidity and temperature, the pomegranate is a desert native. It laughs at heat and is significantly more drought-resistant than almost any other fruit tree on this list. If you live in an area where water is expensive or restricted, this is the tree for you. The brilliance of the pomegranate for a senior-friendly garden is its harvest window. Unlike a peach, which goes from rock-hard to rotten in about 48 hours, pomegranates can hang on the branch for a long time, and once picked, they have a legendary shelf life. Before refrigeration, pomegranates were the traveler's fruit because their thick, leathery skin protects the juicy arils inside for weeks or even months. This is a living pantry item. Planting them is simple. They love well-draining soil and lots of sun. They produce stunning, bright orange flowers that attract pollinators to your other plants, and then they develop into those iconic red globes of juice. If this is helping you plan your own survival garden, tap like so more people can see it. We're about to get into the tree that actually produces its own butter, and you won't believe how easy it is to grow in a pot. The tree I am talking about is the dwarf avocado, specifically the little Cato, or Wirtz variety. For those of us looking for plant once harvest forever crops, the avocado is the holy grail of survival foods. Why? Because most fruits are mostly water and sugar, but the avocado is a source of healthy fats and protein. In a true famine situation, sugar gives you a burst of energy, but fat keeps you alive. Traditionally, avocado trees are giants that dominate a backyard, but the Wurtz variety is a game changer. It's a true dwarf, topping out at about 10 feet in the ground, but when kept in a large pot, you can easily maintain it at 6 feet. The lazy magic of the avocado tree lies in its storage method. Most crops require canning, freezing, or drying, which takes a lot of energy and equipment. But the avocado tree is a living refrigerator. The fruit will not ripen while it is still attached to the branch. This means if you aren't ready to eat them, you just leave them hanging. You can essentially store your harvest on the tree for months, picking only what you need for today's lunch. To grow these successfully in a pot, you just need to ensure the soil is extremely well draining. Avocado roots are sensitive and hate sitting in stagnant water. Use a tall, deep pot to accommodate their taproot and place it in a sunny, wind-protected spot. It's a high-calorie, low-effort powerhouse that brings a touch of the tropics to your survival plan. Now, let us talk about a tree that is often overlooked because it is seen as a common snack, yet it's one of the most reliable producers in the world, the columnar apple. If you've ever avoided apple trees because you didn't want to deal with complex pruning or huge, sprawling branches, this is your solution. Columnar apples, like the North Pole or Golden Sentinel varieties, don't grow wide. They grow straight up like a pillar. They rarely get wider than 2 feet, meaning you can line them up along a balcony railing or a narrow walkway like a living fence. This is lazy gardening at its finest. Because there are no side branches, there is virtually no pruning required. You get the blossoms and the fruit growing directly along the main trunk. For a senior gardener, this means the harvest is always right in front of your chest. No bending down and no climbing up. These trees are incredibly hardy and can withstand very cold winters, making them ideal for folks in northern climates who still want a microorchard. In terms of ancient wisdom, the apple has always been the king of fruits for its ability to be stored in a cool cellar for months. By choosing a columnar variety, you're getting all that historic food security in a package that fits in a corner. Stick with me, because we are approaching our final secret plant, the one that was once the pride of royal estates, and is perhaps the most set-it-and-forget-it fruit on this entire list. The seventh and final tree in our micro-orchard is one that sounds like it belongs in a Victorian novel, but it is actually the ultimate survival crop for the modern, busy gardener, the dwarf mulberry. Specifically, the ever-bearing dwarf variety. In the old days, a mulberry tree was a massive, sprawling giant that would stain every sidewalk for a block, but the dwarf version is a tidy, manageable shrub that lives perfectly in a pot. The reason this is a secret weapon for food security is its persistence. While most fruit trees give you one big harvest and then quit for the year, the ever-bearing mulberry produces fruit in waves all summer long. For the lazy gardener, this is the pinnacle of efficiency. It is almost entirely pest-resistant and disease-resistant. You don't have to spray it with chemicals or worry about delicate pH balances in the soil. It is a tough, rugged plant that survived the harshest winters and the poorest soils throughout history. In fact, during the Great Depression, many families relied on wild mulberries as a free source of sugar and vitamins when they couldn't afford store-bought fruit. The berries are soft, sweet, and require zero peeling or pitting. You just pick and eat. And here is a bit of forgotten wisdom. The leaves of the mulberry tree are also edible when cooked and are incredibly high in protein for a leaf. It's a dual-purpose survival plant that takes up less space than an armchair. Just be sure to give it a good drink of water when it's fruiting, and it will keep feeding you from the first heat of summer until the first frost of autumn. If you forget everything else we've talked about today, remember this: food security doesn't require a farm. It requires a shift in how you look at your space. We've covered everything from the vitamin C-packed Meyer lemon and the living pantry of the avocado to the forbidden history of the black currant and the vertical simplicity of the columnar apple. The common thread here is that these trees are designed to work with you, not against you. They don't ask for your back to break or your knees to ache. They just ask for a pot, some sunlight, and a little bit of water. By planting these lazy perennials, you are essentially building a bridge back to a time when every household had a hand in its own survival. but you redoing it with the convenience of the modern world. Your first step today is simple. Don't try to buy all 7 at once. Pick just one, the one that made your mouth water the most while you were watching, and find a spot for it on your porch or balcony. Once you see that first blossom turn into a piece of fruit that you grew yourself, the fear of empty grocery shelves starts to fade away. You realize that you aren't just a consumer, you're a producer. Now, I want to hear from you. Which one of these 7 lazy crops are you going to plant first? Tell me in the comments. And don't forget to mention what country or climate zone you re-watching from so we can all learn from each other. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of micro-orchards, please hit that like button and subscribe to join our community of resilient gardeners. Next up, I am thinking of doing a deep dive into 10 medicinal weeds that are probably growing in your lawn right now. If you want to see that, comment medicinal below. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and remember, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today.